Hi, I'm Karen. Welcome to the Nanook Lodge Kitchen. Today we've got From a Cookbook episode, and it is Taste and Technique by Naomi Pomeroy. Naomi is a Portland chef. She's been here for years and years. She used to have a restaurant called Beast. It was just world renowned. Sadly, that's since closed over COVID, but she does a lot of other great things, and she wrote this wonderful cookbook. Now, I've got friends coming over for dinner, and Mary Ellen and Terry love cake. So we're gonna make the pistachio orange cake from this cookbook so that we can have some great dessert tonight. The official name of her recipe is the pistachio orange, and she's got candied kumquats, lots of citrus. I unfortunately couldn't find kumquats, but I got this beautiful tangerine, which we're gonna try to candy. It's just a garnish. We're gonna use a blood orange, of course some garnish as well, oranges, pistachios, and this is a light cake. It uses egg whites to really lighten it up a little bit, and then serve it with the caramel and the oranges. So lots of steps in the recipe, but don't be afraid of them. They're all very straightforward. And while I've made a couple of substitutions to what she has in her book, for example, I'm going to use tangerine because I can't find kumquats. And she uses rum and vanilla extract, and I'm going to use rum and rum extract just to give it a little bit more rummy flavor with the citrus. But otherwise, we're going to make the caramel, make the garnishes, and I'll show you how to do it all. We've got everything you're going to need to make this cake. We're going to start by candying this tangerine, but kumquats if you can find them, in some water, sugar, and just a pinch of salt. The cake is made from egg whites, a little bit of butter with rum extract and rum, just a little bit of flour, some sugar, and ground pistachios. Finally, we're going to make a caramel with whipping cream, sugar, cardamom. Now I've got pods here. You can use ground if you like. Doesn't matter. It's going to steep in the cream. So if you use the pods, we can crack them a little bit and then just strain them out of the cream and get that flavor in there. And then we're going to garnish with some pistachios and some orange and blood orange. We've got a whole bunch of prep here in front of us. We've got the tangerine, the sugar, salt, water that we're going to use to caramelize those for a garnish. We've got the egg whites, sugar, butter, salt, rum extract, the pistachios, and the flour for the cake. And we're going to grind the pistachios in the food processor with the sugar so they get all nice and ground up, and then we'll add the flour, and then we can go to the mixer and whip the eggs and mix it all together. And then for the caramel, we've got the sugar, the cream, and the cardamom pods. So I just put them on my mortar and pestle, just cracked them a little bit, and they're going to have great flavor. I don't keep ground cardamom around because it just loses the flavors really quickly. So it's just easier to do that, especially when we're just going to use it to steep into the cream. It'll be easy to strain out. If you have ground cardamom, that's great. Put it in here and you don't have to do any straining. Cardamom is a spice originally from India, Indonesia, that area. It's used a lot in like chai tea. It's also used in Scandinavian baking, strangely, however it got there. But lots of Middle Easterns and Indians and Indonesians use it in a spice blend for like different masalas and things like that. And then finally, we're gonna, it's called supreme. We're gonna make orange and blood orange supremes, and I'll show you how to do that. It's cutting all the membranes out, so you just have that beautiful, luscious fruit without the hard membranes. And some sliced pistachios for garnish. Let's start making a cake. You can either heat your cream in the microwave in your measuring cup, or you can heat it on the stove. If you're doing it on the stove, just bring it up to nice and warm. Doesn't have to simmer, but you want it hot enough so that the cardamom will steep. I actually did mine in the microwave because it's one less utensil to dirty, and then it'll pour really easy out of the glass measuring cup. So there's the cream, there's my cardamom pods. I'm gonna give that a little stir and set that off to the side. I'll strain it out before I add it to the caramel. We added just enough water to get the sugar moving, but what we're really doing right now is cooking it all out so that we're going to end up with just some caramelized sugar, to which we'll add the cream and create the caramel. You can see that the sugar is starting to get thick. It will begin to brown, and what we want is sort of a nice amber mahogany brown. Then we're going to turn it off the heat and add in the cream. When you add in the cream, it'll spackle and spark. See, it's getting sugary. But don't worry about that. It'll clump up, and we'll put it back on the stove, and it will unclump itself as we reheat it. Gotta be really careful when you add that cream, because it will splatter. You just add a little bit at a time. But there. Nice caramel. See the membranes here? We're just going to cut inside each of those all the way to the center of the orange. So cut that wedge right out. Just like that. And you go over to the next one. You got lots of great juice here too. Squeeze it and make a drink out of it. Lovely components for the cake to be able to put it all together. We get this beautiful cake. Look how beautiful it turned out. It did rise, even though it didn't have any baking soda or anything in there like that. Meringue, the egg whites made it lift really nicely. We've got our candied tangerines. Now again, they're not kumquats. I'll tell you, they fell apart just a little bit. Kumquats would have held together with the skin all the way around them. But they taste beautiful and they're nice and soft. You can eat the rind. They candied up really nicely. We've got our caramel sauce, which is great. We've got our orange and our blood orange supremes. And then we've got our pistachios. I've got these little sliced pistachios. But if you can't find those, you can just use regular pistachios. In Naomi Pomeroy's book, she puts a little creme fraiche on there or whipped cream, and you can do that too if you want. I'm simply just going to let the caramel and the orange shine for finishing this all off. I'll put a little caramel sauce on the bottom, slice the cake, put a little more caramel on the top, and let the garnishes go. So, great inspiration from Naomi Pomeroy's book, Taste and Technique. And here at Naomi Lodge, we're going to have a little bit of cake for dessert tonight. Thanks for tuning in.